Alright, so we were talking about portraying different subgroups as inequitable and bias-free roles. So let me give you some of these examples from a draft guide on how to do this. So in this picture we see a person with a disability, and yet she is still playing with the other children. We see both males and females. We don't necessarily have a particular religious or ethnic group identity portrayed here, although in some contexts that may be obvious based on their dress, which ethnic identity or religious group identity they belong to, but that's not always going to be portrayed overtly. As far as equitable roles, if you have women shown in leadership position as well as men, because they do traditionally go to men in a lot of cases, but here we have a female CEO, we have a female doctor and a male doctor, so you can see both of them being portrayed in relatively comparable roles. Here we have a female police officer, male police officers. Here we have people, a man in a wheelchair and yet seems to be participating in a group meeting, perhaps even in a leadership position because he seems to be talking. So these are the kind of things that we're talking about being portrayed in roughly with comparable capacities and comparable intelligence and potential. Even back in our book, which we said was mostly unfamiliar because of its more scientific content, if we just look on this boat, we have both males and females being portrayed with no necessarily discrimination against who has which role. Even this seems to appear to be a female. So we're showing that females, this because of her ponytail appears to be a female, that females are just as capable as males of participating in these different activities and roles, and certainly in a school, if you have both males and females participating in the classroom and in the learning environment, that would also be the kind of equitable roles that we're looking for in question 22. Alright, so 22a, do the illustrations portray both males and females with comparable skills, knowledge, accomplishments, and roles? Yes or no. One of them is portrayed, as smarter or better or more capable than the other. We have pictures of schools and only boys are in the school and there are no girls to be seen, or whatever. Or it may be a story where you only have one gender in the whole story. If it's a story that has only females or only males, in which case we can't compare their roles in the story because there's only one gender portrayed. And then very rarely, perhaps in the case of animals, but even with animals, gender is often portrayed. So a very rare answer would be that gender is not apparent. We can't tell whether they're supposed to be boys or girls to start with. Racial, ethnic, and religious groups. Again, this is highly contextual. If it's very obvious from the illustrations that the characters are supposed to be of one ethnic group versus another, or of one religion versus another, then this will come into play. A lot of times their group identity is not apparent from the illustrations. Sometimes it is based on dress, if the two groups dress very differently in that particular society, but otherwise we often have just generic portrayals of people that are not specifically one religion or ethnic group over another. But certainly if there were those distinctions made, we would want to see if the members of those groups were portrayed in comparable ways or not. And lastly, as we saw with the disabilities in the earlier examples, are they shown as participating actively in activities with other children or regular activities that people without disabilities would be doing? Do you have some people with disabilities depicted, but not necessarily in comparable roles as the people without disabilities? Or most likely